She looked at me with disappointment when I rushed to apologize for being late. That's when I realized my mistake wasn't being late. It was showing emotional uncertainty. Women are drawn to emotional stability like moths to a steady flame in a storm. While your words and actions matter, they pale in comparison to the foundation of unwavering emotional certainty you provide. Like a lighthouse guiding ships through rough waters, your emotional steadiness creates safety and attraction simultaneously. In this video, I'll share why apologizing too quickly can actually damage her attraction to you and reveal the powerful truth about what truly makes a man irresistible in relationships. The emotional certainty paradox. Have you noticed how women seem drawn to men who remain calm during chaos? There's a reason for this that most men completely miss. It's what I call the emotional certainty paradox. And understanding it will transform how women respond to you. Most men today believe showing emotions and vulnerability is what women want. We've heard it everywhere, in magazines, on TV shows, and from relationship experts. Open up, they say. Share your feelings, they insist. Women want sensitive men who aren't afraid to cry. This advice sounds good and feels progressive, but when men actually follow it, something unexpected happens. They express vulnerability and emotions, only to watch as the woman's attraction mysteriously fades away. I've seen this pattern hundreds of times. A man becomes emotionally expressive, then can't understand why the woman who claimed to want emotional openness now seems distant and uninterested. This creates a confusing contradiction that leaves many men frustrated. If women say they want emotional men, why do they lose attraction when men actually show their emotions? The answer reveals one of women's hidden weaknesses, one they often don't even recognize in themselves. Women are seeking men with emotional certainty, which differs entirely from simply being emotional. Emotional certainty means having a stable emotional core that doesn't get easily shaken by external circumstances. It's the difference between expressing emotions thoughtfully and being controlled by them reactively. This preference has deep biological roots. Research shows women are wired to seek security and stability in potential partners, a survival mechanism evolved over thousands of years. When life was dangerous and unpredictable, women needed partners who remained steady during crises. This programming still influences attraction today, even in our modern world where physical dangers are less common. Consider the challenging situations you've faced with a woman present. Perhaps a flat tire on a dark road, an argument with a stranger, or a financial setback. The men who maintain composure during these moments trigger a powerful attraction response in women. When a man stays composed during stress, he signals that he can handle life's challenges without falling apart. I experienced this when my car broke down while driving with a woman I had recently started dating. Rather than showing frustration, I calmly handled the situation and maintained a positive attitude. Later, she confided that my response made her feel safe in a way she couldn't rationally explain. Not because I fixed the problem, but because my emotions remained steady when things went wrong. This stability is like being a lighthouse in a storm. Steady, reliable, and guiding. The lighthouse doesn't deny the storm exists or pretend the waves aren't crashing. It simply remains unmoved, continuing to provide light regardless of surrounding conditions. For women seeking a safe harbor in life's storms, this emotional certainty creates an irresistible pull. The mistake many men make is believing that apologizing quickly or showing emotional reactivity demonstrates caring. They think immediate responses to a woman's emotions show empathy and connection. What they're actually communicating is emotional uncertainty, that their internal state can be easily disrupted. Compare these responses. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. Please don't be mad. What can I do to fix this?" Versus, "I understand you're upset. Let's talk about it when you're ready." The first centers on the man's anxiety and need for immediate resolution. The second shows he's emotionally secure enough to give space while remaining engaged. I coached a client whose girlfriend frequently tested him with small conflicts. His initial pattern of immediate apologies and anxious resolution attempts made her more distant. When he learned to respond with calm confidence, acknowledging her feelings without becoming emotionally reactive, their relationship transformed. She later admitted feeling more attracted to him when he maintained his emotional center. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions. That creates disconnection. It means processing them internally before expressing them thoughtfully. It means developing the emotional maturity to feel things without being controlled by those feelings. A practical way to develop this quality is practicing the pause. When something triggers an emotional reaction, take a breath before responding. Ask yourself, how would a man with complete emotional certainty respond? Often, the answer involves fewer words, less reactivity, and more thoughtful consideration. Some men misinterpret this advice and show no emotion at all. Women aren't attracted to emotional emptiness, but to emotional fullness that remains stable under pressure. Think of it as the difference between a paper cup and a stone cup. Both hold water emotions, but one collapses when squeezed while the other maintains its shape. Emotional certainty benefits every area of life. The man who maintains his emotional center during challenges makes better decisions, builds stronger relationships, and experiences less unnecessary suffering. Start by identifying your emotional triggers, situations that most easily disturb your center. Once you know these triggers, practice maintaining calm stability when they arise. Each time you respond with composure instead of reactivity, you strengthen this quality. Remember that emotional certainty doesn't mean never changing your mind or admitting mistakes. Men with true emotional certainty find it easy to apologize when appropriate because their sense of self isn't threatened by acknowledging errors. They apologize from strength rather than fear. Women have a natural attraction to this quality because it provides security in an insecure world. When you develop emotional certainty, you're meeting one of their deepest needs, becoming the steady presence that allows them to feel safe exploring their own emotions fully. The scarcity secret. Why do women often lose interest in men who are always available, even when they initially found them attractive? This question exposes one of the most confusing patterns in dating. You meet someone, she seems interested, you make yourself completely available to her, and then almost like magic, her interest starts to fade. Let me explain what's happening beneath the surface. Most men believe that being constantly available and attentive shows dedication and interest. We've been taught that reliability matters, that responding quickly to messages shows you care, and that making her your priority proves your commitment. This approach seems logical. After all, if you value someone, wouldn't you want to spend as much time with them as possible? Yet men who follow this approach often find women's attraction mysteriously fading over time. I've seen this pattern repeatedly with clients. A man meets a woman, they hit it off, and he makes himself available whenever she wants to see him. He responds to every text within minutes. He cancels plans with friends when she suggests getting together. He's always there, always ready, always waiting. And slowly the woman who once seemed excited to see him starts taking longer to respond to messages. She becomes less enthusiastic about making plans. The spark that was there at the beginning gradually dims. This happens because we value what we can't easily have. The job you had to interview for 3 times feels more valuable than the one offered immediately. The friend who's occasionally busy seems more interesting than the one who's always available. This psychological principle affects all humans and helps us assess value in a complex world. Behavioral psychology confirms that scarcity creates perceived value. Companies leverage this principle effectively. Apple creates excitement by limiting initial supply of new phones, causing lines to form around the block. Similarly, when I helped a friend sell concert tickets advertised as limited availability, they sold within hours, whereas the previous week's sales had been slow, with plenty of tickets available. Nothing about the concert changed, only the perception of scarcity. In relationships, maintaining healthy distance creates a space that women want to close. This doesn't mean being cold or unavailable. It means having boundaries and a life that exists independently of her. When you maintain some mystery and don't make yourself completely available all the time, you create curiosity, a powerful component of attraction. I worked with a client who couldn't understand why women lost interest in him after a few weeks. He would drop everything whenever a new woman texted him, responding instantly, even during work meetings, and canceling plans with friends for last-minute dates. His entire schedule revolved around her availability. After learning about the scarcity principle, he started maintaining his own schedule and priorities. He still saw women he was interested in, but not at the expense of his work, friends, or personal time. The internal shift was profound. He stopped feeling anxious about missing messages and began feeling confident in his worth. This authentic self-respect reflected outwardly, and women started pursuing him more actively and staying interested longer. This isn't about playing games. It's about having a full life that doesn't revolve around her. Authentic scarcity comes from genuinely valuing your time and having real priorities beyond a romantic relationship. The balance is critical. Too available equals low value. Too unavailable equals no connection at all. Attraction requires enough availability to form a connection, but enough scarcity to maintain interest. Think of it like oxygen. We need it to live, but pure oxygen is toxic. The right balance sustains life. Similarly, the right balance of availability and scarcity sustains attraction. You should be present when you're with her, but shouldn't always be available whenever she wants. Another client misinterpreted this advice and started ignoring messages and canceling plans to seem busy. This backfired because it wasn't authentic. It was manipulation. We worked on building a genuinely full life with real interests and commitments, creating natural scarcity without games. His dating results improved dramatically. Women are naturally drawn to men they haven't completely figured out yet. Human beings are curious. We want to solve puzzles and understand mysteries. When a woman feels she's completely figured a man out, her brain stops actively engaging with the puzzle of who he is, and a powerful element of attraction fades. This pattern extends to long-term relationships too. Couples who maintain attraction over years often preserve some element of unpredictability and growth. They continue to surprise each other, learn new things, and maintain healthy independence, creating ongoing curiosity. By maintaining independence and not always being available, you create natural scarcity that sustains her interest. This means pursuing your goals and passions, maintaining friendships, and sometimes saying "I can't tonight" when that's the truth. One client transformed his dating life by reclaiming his time. When he started focusing more on his music and spending evenings with his band, a woman who had shown only moderate interest suddenly became much more interested in seeing him. His genuine passion made him more interesting and created natural scarcity. Remember, this principle works because it's based on authentic value. When you value your time and have clear priorities beyond dating, you naturally become more attractive. You become the man worth pursuing, rather than the man always in pursuit, fundamentally changing how women respond to you. The voice and presence effect. Have you ever wondered why some men command attention the moment they enter a room, while others remain invisible despite their efforts? I noticed this effect years ago when I watched my friend Mark transform a social gathering just by walking in. Nothing about his appearance was extraordinary, yet everyone, especially the women, seemed drawn to him. The secret wasn't what he said, but how he said it and how he moved through space. Most men think their words matter most when communicating with women. They spend hours crafting the perfect text message, memorizing conversation starters, or planning what topics to discuss on dates. They believe content is king, that finding the right words will create attraction and interest. This focus on verbal content seems logical. After all, words are how we consciously exchange information. Yet research shows that how you speak and carry yourself accounts for over 90% of the impression you make. In a UCLA study, researchers found that when communication feels inconsistent, people trust the nonverbal signals far more than the actual words spoken. Think about the last time someone said "I'm fine," but their tone and body language told a completely different story. Which did you believe? Almost certainly not their words. I experienced this firsthand during a business presentation. My content was well researched, but I spoke too quickly and maintained poor posture. Afterward, a colleague shared some brutal feedback. Nobody remembered my points because they were too distracted by my nervous energy. This wake-up call transformed how I communicated, showing me that delivery matters as much as content. Studies reveal women are subconsciously attracted to men with deeper, controlled voices. It triggers primal attraction responses. Research from McMaster University found that women rated men with deeper voices as significantly more attractive, even when they couldn't see the men's faces or bodies. This preference was strongest when women were in the most fertile phase of their cycle, suggesting a biological basis for this attraction. I worked with a client named James, who struggled with dating, despite being intelligent and reasonably good-looking. During our first meeting, I noticed he spoke with a high, fast-paced voice that rose at the end of sentences, making statements sound like questions. We spent 6 weeks practicing voice control, speaking from his chest rather than his throat, slowing his pace, and maintaining a steady pitch. The changes in his dating results were immediate and dramatic. Women who had previously seemed uninterested were suddenly engaging more deeply in conversations with him. This voice preference isn't random. Evolutionarily, deeper voices signal higher testosterone and leadership ability. Throughout human history, men with more commanding voices were often group leaders who could protect others and secure resources. While our modern world operates differently, these ancient attraction circuits remain active in the brain. Like a seasoned conductor commanding an orchestra with subtle gestures, a man with vocal control can direct attention and create harmony in social interactions. Physical presence, how you move, stand, and occupy space, works in concert with your voice to communicate confidence. Harvard researcher Amy Cuddy found that expansive body positions not only make you appear more confident to others, but actually change your hormone levels, increasing testosterone and decreasing cortisol. This means how you carry yourself literally changes your body chemistry. Men who move deliberately, maintain steady eye contact, and speak without rushing project control and certainty. This manifests in specific behaviors, walking slightly more slowly than average, taking a moment before responding to questions, standing with feet shoulder-width apart, and maintaining comfortable eye contact. These adjustments communicate that you're comfortable in your own skin. I observed this effect at a networking event where 2 men approached the same group. The first rushed up, spoke quickly, and stood with his arms crossed. The second walked calmly, positioned himself with open body language, and spoke at a measured pace. The group's attention naturally shifted to the second man, even though the first was sharing more information. Nervous movements, fidgeting, and rapid speech patterns signal insecurity. These behaviors include touching your face, jingling coins or keys, shifting weight from foot to foot, speaking too quickly, and over-explaining your points. Each movement telegraphs anxiety and undermines your message. Women have a strong response to men with commanding presence, often a biological reaction they can't explain rationally. I've interviewed hundreds of women about what attracts them to certain men, and many struggle to articulate exactly why some men seem more magnetic. They use phrases like, "He just has something about him," or "there's a certain energy he carries." When pressed, they mention the man's voice, movement, or presence, rarely his actual words. By slowing down your speech, lowering your voice slightly, and moving with purpose, you can dramatically increase your attractiveness. These changes don't require special talent. They're skills anyone can develop. Start with your voice. Record yourself speaking naturally. Then practice speaking about 20% more slowly and from your chest rather than your throat. Next, work on your movement patterns. Practice walking slightly more slowly than your natural pace. When you enter a room, pause briefly at the threshold rather than rushing in. When sitting, take up a comfortable amount of space rather than shrinking yourself. Eye contact is another crucial element. Practice maintaining comfortable eye contact about 70% of the time during conversation, looking away naturally at intervals. I coached a teacher who struggled with classroom management. Despite knowing his subject well, we focused exclusively on his presence, slowing his speech, standing more firmly, and eliminating nervous gestures. Within weeks, discipline problems decreased dramatically. His students responded to the subtle authority signals. His new presence communicated. This presence effect transforms how people respond to you in all areas of life. The most powerful presence comes from being comfortable enough in your own skin that you no longer need to prove yourself to others. Start today by paying attention to how you speak and move through the world. Small, consistent adjustments will create significant changes in how others respond to you, especially women, who are particularly attuned to these subtle signals of confidence. The willingness to walk away. Why do women often chase men who seem ready to leave, while taking for granted those who would never dream of walking away? I noticed this pattern repeatedly during my years of coaching men in relationships. One client, Michael, couldn't understand why his girlfriend became increasingly distant, despite his constant reassurance that he would always be there for her. Meanwhile, his friend Jake, who maintained clear boundaries and occasionally declined his girlfriend's requests, found himself being pursued more intensely. Conventional wisdom suggests that showing complete commitment and dedication is the path to a woman's heart. We're taught that women value security and certainty above all else. Popular advice encourages men to demonstrate unwavering dedication, to make grand gestures of commitment, and to consistently communicate that they're in it for the long haul. This approach seems logical. If you want someone to feel secure in a relationship, showing complete dedication should create that security. Yet, paradoxically, this approach often leads to being taken for granted or seen as less desirable. I've watched this scenario unfold hundreds of times. A man commits fully, making it clear he would never leave. Initially, this creates comfort for the woman. But over time, something shifts. She begins to test boundaries, respect diminishes, and attraction fades. The man who promised never to leave finds himself increasingly anxious about the relationship's stability. The psychology behind this is fascinating. Humans fear loss more than they value gain. It's called loss aversion. This principle, established through extensive research in behavioral economics, shows that the pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of equal value. We care more about not losing $100 than about finding $100. I experienced this principle firsthand when selling my old car. When I told the potential buyer I had several other people interested, he immediately made a decision and offered more than I expected. The perceived potential loss motivated action in a way that simply seeing the car's value never would have. When a man communicates through actions that he has standards and boundaries, he won't compromise. Respect naturally follows. Telling a woman you have boundaries means nothing. Consistently enforcing those boundaries, when tested, speaks volumes. This might mean saying no to a last-minute request when you've already made plans, calmly disengaging from a disrespectful conversation, or taking space after a conflict, rather than rushing to resolve it on her terms. This principle was clear with my client David, who struggled with his girlfriend's habit of canceling plans at the last minute. After our work together, he enforced a boundary by continuing with his evening plans. When she canceled their date, her response was immediate. She suddenly found a way to make their date after all, and her respect for him visibly increased. By demonstrating he would continue living his life regardless of her decisions, he became more valuable in her eye. Clinging desperately to a relationship is like carrying a heavy weight that gradually drains your energy and makes you stoop lower. The more tightly you grip, the heavier it becomes. until you're completely bent over by its burden. When you set it down and stand tall, paradoxically, the relationship often becomes lighter and easier to maintain. This isn't about threatening to leave or playing power games. It's about having genuine self-respect that doesn't depend on external validation. Many men misinterpret this principle and make empty threats or play childish games with a woman's emotions. This approach backfires because it comes from insecurity rather than authentic self-worth. Think of it this way. If staying in the relationship requires you to become someone you don't respect, is that relationship truly serving you? When you can honestly answer no to that question and mean it, you've developed the authentic willingness to walk away. Men who maintain healthy boundaries have usually built a life they value independently of their relationship. Before working on relationship skills, I often help clients develop their own sense of purpose, strengthen friendships, pursue interests, and create a fulfilling life. When you genuinely enjoy your life outside of a relationship, you bring more to the relationship itself. I worked with a man who had become completely isolated in his relationship. He had abandoned friendships, hobbies, and personal goals to focus entirely on his girlfriend. Our first steps had nothing to do with the relationship directly. Instead, we rebuilt his independent life as he reconnected with friends, restored his fitness routine, and pursued a passion project. His girlfriend, who had been pulling away, became interested again. She could sense he was no longer desperately clinging to the relationship as his only source of fulfillment. The pattern is consistent. Men who fear losing a woman typically end up losing her. This isn't random or unfair. It's a natural consequence of how respect and attraction function. Women respond to men who aren't afraid of losing them. It creates a powerful emotional response that deepens attraction. When a woman senses a man values himself and has clear standards, it triggers a natural respect response that forms the foundation for deeper attraction. A client shared a turning point in his relationship after months of accepting disrespectful treatment. He finally told his girlfriend calmly, "I care about you, but I won't continue in a relationship where I'm spoken to this way." Her entire demeanor changed, and their relationship transformed. She later admitted she had lost respect for him because he seemed willing to accept any treatment just to keep her. By developing your own standards and enforcing boundaries, you become the rare man women work to keep in their lives. Clear, consistent boundaries communicate self-respect and create a framework for mutual respect. Start by identifying your non-negotiable standards. What behaviors would make a relationship unsustainable for you? What core values must be respected? Once you're clear on these standards, communicate them calmly and enforce them consistently through actions. The willingness to walk away ultimately creates the foundation for a relationship where neither person needs to leave. When both partners maintain healthy boundaries and mutual respect, they create something worth choosing every day, rather than staying out of fear or obligation. The mission-driven magnetism. Have you noticed how some men seem to attract women effortlessly, even when they're not particularly focused on dating? I watched this happen with my friend Daniel. While the rest of us were checking dating apps constantly, he was completely absorbed in launching his photography business. Yet women approached him regularly, even during events where he was working. His magnetic pull seemed almost unfair to those of us trying so hard to create attraction. Many men believe making a woman their priority will win her heart and show how much they care. This approach makes logical sense. If you want someone to feel special, you focus your attention on them. You respond quickly to their messages. You adjust your schedule to see them. You make decisions based on what they might want. This strategy seems thoughtful and considerate, exactly what women say they want from men. Yet, men who prioritize women often struggle to maintain attraction. They put a woman at the center of their universe, cancel plans with friends to see her, and build their schedule around her availability. Initially, she appreciates the attention, but slowly, something shifts. Her messages become less frequent. She seems less excited to make plans. The more he centers his life around her, the less interested she becomes. This creates a frustrating cycle where his increasing efforts produce diminishing returns. Women are naturally drawn to men, driven by something greater than themselves. This doesn't mean ignoring women or treating them poorly. It means having a purpose that exists independently of any relationship, a mission that gives your life direction and meaning even when you're single. As one client realized, women were never attracted to me because I never gave them anything compelling to be attracted to besides my attention. Women don't want to be the center of a man's world. They want to be part of something bigger. When a woman is your entire focus, you place an impossible burden on her to be your sole source of fulfillment and purpose. This creates pressure rather than attraction. A man with a clear mission, whether building a business, mastering a craft, or pursuing a meaningful goal, projects focus and purpose. I worked with a client who transformed his dating life after committing fully to his personal training business. As he developed workout programs and grew his client base, women responded differently to him. His conversations became interesting because he had real experiences to share. His time became valuable because he actually had important things to do. His attractive energy transformed completely. This mission-driven approach creates 3 powerful attraction triggers. Discipline shows through consistent actions toward your goals. Women notice when you maintain your workout schedule or steadily build your business. This signals reliability and commitment. Independence demonstrates you can find fulfillment outside of romantic validation. You're not seeking approval because you're focused on something meaningful. Passion, magnetic when authentic. When you light up talking about your work or goals, that energy is contagious. My client James experienced this while launching his music production business. During a date, he briefly checked his phone for feedback on a track from an important client. Instead of being upset, his date became more interested and asked questions about his work. James hadn't planned this as a strategy. He was genuinely passionate about his music. That authentic purpose created intrigue and respect. When your attention is directed toward your purpose, a woman becomes curious about earning her place in your world rather than taking it for granted. This creates a healthy filter. Women who appreciate your drive will be drawn to you, while those looking for someone to revolve around them will move on. The quality of women in your life improves once you commit to your path. Those who stay are supportive of your goals and bring their own ambitions to the relationship. If a man doesn't have a mission, women sense it, and they won't stay. Without a mission, you might attract someone initially, but maintaining that attraction becomes increasingly difficult. We're all drawn to people with direction and momentum in life. The critical mistake many men make is making a woman their mission. I've coached men who abandoned promising careers, important friendships, and meaningful hobbies to focus entirely on making a relationship work. In every case, the relationship deteriorated. When you make someone your entire purpose, you create an unhealthy dynamic where you need them more than they need you. Michael's story illustrates this perfectly. After dating Sarah for 3 months, she began pulling away. During our sessions, I discovered he had abandoned his photography, reduced time with friends, and changed his gym schedule to match hers. Our work focused on rebuilding his independent life and reconnecting with his passion. As he regained his purpose, Sarah's interest returned. She later admitted feeling suffocated by his constant focus on her. Women are drawn to men with purpose. They want to be part of an exciting journey, not the destination itself. Think about your own experience. Are you more attracted to someone with interesting goals, or someone whose only interest seems to be you? A mission provides context for a relationship, something you build together rather than just existing together. A purposeful man demonstrates competence and resilience, qualities that matter in building a life together. This applies across domains, from creative pursuits to community leadership. By developing your mission and inviting her into it, you create a natural magnetic pull. The healthiest relationships involve 2 people with individual purposes that complement each other. You share your journey and support hers without either person becoming the other's reason for existence. Ask yourself, what would I pursue with passion even if I were single? When you find and follow that purpose, attraction becomes the natural byproduct of living with direction. Women don't want to be your mission, they want to be with a man who has one, creating a powerful foundation for both personal fulfillment and lasting attraction. The controlled vulnerability balance. Why do some men seem to get closer to women? By sharing less, while others share everything and end up alone. I noticed this pattern repeatedly during my coaching sessions with clients. One man, Thomas, would pour his heart out on first dates, sharing childhood traumas and current insecurities. Women would listen sympathetically, but rarely agree to second dates. Meanwhile, my client James shared personal details gradually over time and found women increasingly drawn to him with each selective revelation. Modern dating advice often encourages men to be completely open and vulnerable with women. We hear this everywhere. Just be vulnerable, share your feelings, let her see the real you. The advice comes from well-meaning sources that recognize the problems with traditional male stoicism. Men are told that emotional expression creates connection and that modern women want men who can open up about their feelings. This advice seems progressive and healthy on the surface. Yet many men find that after sharing too much too soon, women's attraction mysteriously fades away. I've witnessed this scenario hundreds of times in my coaching practice. A man follows the advice to be vulnerable. He shares his deepest fears, unresolved emotional struggles, and insecurities early in the relationship. Initially, the woman responds with care and support, but then something shifts. Her messages become less frequent. She seems less excited to see him. The emotional connection he thought they were building suddenly feels one-sided. I once worked with a client who couldn't understand why women kept losing interest after a few dates. When I asked about his conversations, I discovered he was sharing deeply personal struggles within the first hour of meeting someone. He thought he was building intimacy, but he was actually creating discomfort. There's a crucial difference between vulnerability that strengthens connection and vulnerability that weakens it. The distinction lies in the context, timing, and motivation behind the sharing. Are you sharing to genuinely connect? Or are you seeking validation and emotional support? Are you revealing aspects of yourself from a position of strength or exposing wounds that haven't healed? Controlled vulnerability means sharing selectively from a position of strength rather than neediness or insecurity. Think of it as a magic trick. The skilled magician reveals just enough to create wonder and engagement, while maintaining an air of mystery. Revealing everything at once destroys the magic. Similarly, emotional revealing works best when it's thoughtful and measured. It's about revealing yourself thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Research shows timing matters. Vulnerability is attractive after trust and attraction are established, not before. This principle applies in all relationships, not just romantic ones. You build professional trust first, then gradually share more personal aspects as the relationship develops. The same principle applies in dating. Building attraction and basic trust creates the foundation for meaningful vulnerability later. I remember my own transformation with this principle. Years ago, I began dating someone I was deeply interested in. On our third date, instead of my usual pattern of sharing everything to create connection, I held back, focusing instead on creating an enjoyable experience. When I eventually shared a personal story about overcoming a challenge in my life, she moved closer, touched my arm and said, "Thank you for telling me that. I feel like I'm really getting to know the real you." That moment changed everything for me. I realized the power of selective vulnerability. Men who share struggles they've already overcome demonstrate resilience, while sharing current struggles can signal dependence. When you share how you overcame a challenge, you demonstrate growth and strength. When you share a current struggle you haven't resolved, you risk coming across as seeking help or validation. One approach builds respect along with connection. The other can create concern or burden. Vulnerability should reveal your humanity, not your helplessness. Everyone faces challenges and experiences difficult emotions. Sharing these aspects shows that you're human and relatable. But there's a difference between showing your humanity and displaying helplessness. Vulnerability that reveals your character, values, and growth is powerful. Vulnerability that reveals ongoing struggles without context or resolution can undermine attraction, especially early in relationships. A man's emotions should be like a deep ocean, visible but never overwhelming. An ocean is clearly deep and powerful, but it's not constantly turbulent on the surface. Similarly, a man with emotional depth doesn't need to constantly display emotional reactivity to prove he has feelings. The depth is understood without constant demonstration. Women have a hidden weakness for men who can be vulnerable without being weak. It creates an emotional connection that feels both safe and exciting. When a woman finds a man who can share meaningful parts of himself without becoming emotionally dependent on her response, she experiences a unique combination of connection and respect. The men who create the strongest connections with women are those who share thoughtfully and selectively. They don't hide who they are, but they don't expose every thought and feeling without consideration either. They understand that true intimacy develops gradually through selective sharing rather than emotional flooding. By sharing thoughtfully rather than dumping emotions, you become the rare man who connects deeply without becoming emotionally dependent. You reveal your inner world on your own terms, which makes you more compelling and respected in relationships. Start by practicing self-awareness about your motivations for sharing. Next, consider timing. Early in relationships, focus more on positive sharing and gradually introduce more personal revelations as trust builds. Finally, work on sharing from a position of self-understanding rather than emotional reactivity. The goal isn't to hide your authentic self, but to share it in a way that builds connection rather than concern. The test-response pattern. Have you ever had a woman suddenly challenge you, create conflict, or act disinterested for no apparent reason? I remember coaching a client who was completely confused when his date suddenly became cold and distant in the middle of what seemed like a great evening. Everything was going well, he told me. Then she started checking her phone and asking if I really believed what I had just said about politics. He spent the rest of the night trying to regain her interest by backtracking on his opinions and asking if she was okay. The date ended early, and she never returned his calls. Most men interpret these behaviors as genuine problems or signs that a woman is losing interest. It makes sense. When someone challenges your opinion, creates conflict, or seems bored, the natural conclusion is that something's wrong. You start wondering if you said something offensive, if she's having a bad day, or if she's simply not into you anymore. These interpretations seem logical based on the surface behaviors you're observing. This leads many men to react defensively, apologize unnecessarily, or try harder to please, usually making things worse. They notice a woman's sudden shift in behavior and immediately try to fix it. They apologize for opinions they just expressed. They work harder to impress her. They ask repeatedly if everything is okay. They shift from confident conversation to walking on eggshells, and almost invariably, her interest continues to decline, despite their increased efforts. What's actually happening is a subconscious testing mechanism women use to evaluate a man's emotional stability and confidence. These moments of challenge, conflict, or disinterest are rarely about the specific topics being discussed. They're about seeing how you respond under pressure. Will you maintain your composure? Will you stand by your views? Will you remain steady in your value when she pulls back? These tests emerge naturally from evolutionary needs to find partners who remain stable during challenging situations. Throughout human history, women needed to identify men who could stay calm and effective under pressure, as this trait was crucial for survival and protection. The tests aren't malicious, they're instinctive filters for emotional strength. I worked with a client who kept failing these tests without realizing it. During dates, whenever a woman disagreed with him, he would immediately backtrack and adopt her perspective. When a woman took longer to respond to messages, he would send follow-up texts, asking if everything was okay. He thought he was being accommodating and attentive, but he was actually demonstrating emotional instability. Women may test you by challenging your opinions, creating small conflicts, acting disinterested, or making unusual requests. She might strongly disagree with your view, become suddenly distant, mention another attractive man, or ask for last-minute changes to plans. Each situation evaluates different aspects of your emotional strength. The key insight, how you respond, matters far more than the content of the test itself. Your ability to stay centered when she creates distance matters more than why she created that distance. This understanding transforms how you interpret challenging interactions with women. Men who react emotionally, get defensive, or try to please their way out of tests typically fail them. These responses communicate that your emotional state can be easily disrupted by her behavior. This signals a lack of inner strength, the exact quality these tests evaluate. A client transformed his dating life. After understanding this principle, previously he became visibly upset when women challenged his opinions. After learning about tests, he began responding with calm confidence, sometimes finding humor in disagreements. His dating results improved dramatically because he was finally passing tests he'd been failing for years. Women are powerfully attracted to men who remain unfazed by tests. When most men react emotionally, the man who maintains his center stands out immediately. This isn't about being cold. It's about having emotional security that isn't easily shaken by external challenges. When women encounter this rare quality, it creates a strong attraction response. Another client shared a turning point in his relationship. His girlfriend became unusually critical one evening. Instead of getting defensive, he responded calmly, "Sounds like you're having a rough day. I'm going to make some tea. Would you like some?" She later told him that his response made her feel both seen and secure. This moment significantly deepened their connection. By recognizing tests and responding with amused confidence, rather than emotional reactivity, you pass them effortlessly. Start with awareness, understanding that sudden challenges might be tests rather than genuine problems. Then maintain your emotional center, not letting her behavior dictate your mood. Finally, respond appropriately with calm confidence, gentle humor, or steady boundaries. This doesn't mean ignoring legitimate concerns. The key is distinguishing between tests and real issues. Real issues tend to be consistent and specific, while tests are often sudden and somewhat arbitrary. With practice, you'll develop an intuitive sense for the difference. Tests serve a valuable purpose in dating. They help women identify men with genuine emotional strength rather than surface-level confidence that collapses under pressure. By passing these tests, you demonstrate qualities that create healthy relationships. When you notice a sudden shift in her behavior or an unexpected challenge, take a breath before responding. Ask yourself, is this a test of my emotional stability? Then respond from a place of calm confidence, rather than reactivity. With practice, this becomes natural. Understanding this pattern allows you to navigate relationships with less confusion and anxiety. You'll recognize that challenging moments are opportunities to demonstrate emotional strength, transforming potentially negative interactions into chances to deepen attraction and respect. The rejection confidence paradox. Why do some men become more attractive after being rejected, while others become less desirable? I noticed this pattern during years of coaching men in dating. One client, Mark, approached a woman at a coffee shop who politely declined his invitation for a date. He smiled, wished her a good day, and continued enjoying his coffee. Later that week, the same woman approached him at the same cafe and suggested they get together. Meanwhile, another client, Jason, received a rejection at a social event, spent 20 minutes trying to change her mind, and left looking visibly upset. The natural response to rejection is feeling hurt, showing disappointment, or trying to change the other person's mind. Most of us are taught that persistence pays off. and that showing how much we care demonstrates commitment. When faced with rejection, our instinct is to explain why the person should reconsider, to show our emotional investment, or to try harder to win their approval. This response feels right because it honestly expresses our feelings and desires. Yet men who handle rejection this way often find themselves becoming even less attractive in women's eyes. I've seen this scenario play out hundreds of times in my coaching practice. A man gets rejected, reacts with visible disappointment, or attempts to convince the woman to change her mind, and watches as her initial disinterest transforms into active avoidance. The very behaviors he thought might win her over actually cement her decision and often lower her impression of him. Have you ever wondered if your own reaction to rejection might be sabotaging your attractiveness? The truth is counterintuitive. How you handle rejection can actually increase your attractiveness rather than diminish it. This psychological principle plays out consistently in social dynamics. The way you respond to a no can be more impactful than how you initially ask for a yes. Your reaction reveals fundamental aspects of your character and confidence that are highly attractive to women. I worked with a client who transformed his dating results by changing his response to rejection. Instead of looking hurt or trying to negotiate, he started responding with genuine acceptance and occasional humor. His results changed dramatically, with new women he met and sometimes with the very women who had initially rejected him. Studies on attraction confirm this pattern. Research shows that confidence in the face of rejection signals high social value and emotional resilience. Throughout human social evolution, people who could handle social setbacks with confidence typically held higher status in groups. This association between confidence during rejection and high social value remains powerful in our modern dating landscape. When a man responds to rejection with ease, perhaps with humor or genuine acceptance, it communicates that his self-worth isn't dependent on others. This quality is incredibly rare and valuable. Most people's self-esteem fluctuates based on external validation. The man who remains unshaken by rejection demonstrates a solid internal foundation that's naturally attractive. He shows that his value comes from within rather than from others' approval. I coached a man who had been rejected by a woman he really liked. Instead of becoming upset, he smiled and said, "No worries, your loss. Have a great day," then walked away without hesitation. 2 weeks later, she contacted him and suggested they get together. When he asked what changed her mind, she admitted his confident response made her question her initial judgment. His reaction didn't fit the pattern she expected, creating curiosity. This creates cognitive dissonance. If rejection doesn't affect him, perhaps I misjudged his value. When someone responds to rejection unexpectedly, our brains struggle to reconcile the contradiction. If rejection doesn't impact his confidence, maybe he has options we didn't see, or qualities we overlooked. This cognitive dissonance sometimes leads to a reevaluation of the initial decision. I experienced this myself years ago when I asked a woman for her phone number at a bookstore. When she declined, I smiled and said, "That's okay. I hope you find a great book today," and continued browsing. 20 minutes later, she approached me and handed me her number, saying my reaction made her curious. The contrast is striking. Men who fear rejection typically experience more of it, while those who accept it gracefully often face it less frequently. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle in both directions. When you fear rejection, you approach interactions with tension and neediness that others can sense. When you accept rejection easily, you approach with relaxed confidence that increases your chances of connection. Women respond strongly to men who handle rejection with unshakable confidence, as it signals rare emotional strength and high status. The ability to maintain composure and positive energy despite setbacks demonstrates emotional stability and resilience, qualities that matter in all relationships. I worked with a client who transformed his dating life by mastering this principle. Before coaching, he would become visibly upset when rejected. sometimes sending follow-up messages, trying to change women's minds. After learning to view rejection differently, he began responding with calm acceptance. His entire dating experience changed. Women began responding more positively to his initial approaches. By viewing rejection as information rather than failure, and responding with confidence, you can turn apparent setbacks into attraction opportunities. Rejection simply means there isn't alignment between you and this particular person right now. It says nothing about your value or desirability to others. When you embrace this perspective, rejection becomes merely useful feedback. Practice your rejection response in low-stakes situations. When a store doesn't have what you're looking for, or a friend can't make your planned event, notice your reaction. Practice responding with ease and maintaining your positive energy. These small moments build the emotional muscles you'll use when facing romantic rejection. Handling rejection well isn't about pretending it doesn't affect you. It's about processing your disappointment privately, rather than putting that emotional burden on others. The man who masters this paradox finds freedom in dating and relationships, approaching interactions with authentic confidence, while maintaining his emotional well-being, regardless of others' responses. Perhaps the most attractive quality of all. The mystery maintenance factor. Have you noticed how some relationships start with intense attraction but quickly become boring, while others maintain intrigue for years? I worked with 2 clients who highlighted this contrast perfectly. Michael shared every thought, feeling, and life detail with his girlfriend from day one. 6 months later, she ended things, saying she just didn't feel the spark anymore. Meanwhile, David revealed himself gradually over time, maintained some independence, and occasionally surprised his partner with unexpected gestures or ideas. 3 years into their relationship, his girlfriend still described feeling butterflies when she saw him. Most men believe complete transparency and constant communication build stronger connections with women. The common advice suggests that sharing everything creates intimacy. Open your entire life. Text throughout the day. Answer every question fully. Explain all your thoughts and feelings. Be an open book that she can read completely. This approach seems logical. The more someone knows about you, the closer they should feel to you. Many relationship experts promote this idea of radical transparency as the path to deeper connection. Yet relationships where everything is known and predictable often lose their spark, despite seeming stable. Men who share everything immediately often create comfortable relationships that grow increasingly boring. One client described his relationship as completely functional, but missing something essential. They communicated openly about everything, yet the passion had disappeared. The stability was there, but the excitement was gone. The psychological principle at work is that humans are naturally drawn to what they don't fully understand. Our brains are pattern recognition machines constantly trying to solve puzzles. When there's nothing left to figure out about someone, our minds become less engaged. Consider your favorite books or movies. The ones that keep you thinking about them typically have elements that remain open to interpretation, like pieces of an intricate puzzle revealed gradually, rather than all at once. I worked with a client who couldn't understand why women seemed interested initially, but lost enthusiasm after a few weeks. He would share his entire life story on first dates, text constantly throughout the day, and answer every question with exhaustive detail. He was leaving no space for curiosity or discovery. Another client had the opposite approach. He shared aspects of himself gradually over time. Women consistently remained interested in him longer. When a woman can predict everything about a man, his responses, feelings, and behaviors, her mind stops actively engaging with who he is. Think about how you feel when you watch a movie for the second time. You might enjoy it, but the engagement isn't the same as when you first saw it and didn't know what would happen next. Similarly, when a woman can anticipate your every response, the mental engagement that creates attraction begins to fade. This doesn't mean being fake or manipulative. It means maintaining natural mystery through unpredictability and depth. It's about having enough complexity that you can't be completely figured out immediately. A man with genuine passions, evolving perspectives, and continuing growth naturally maintains mystery without effort. You're allowing the full complexity of who you are to be discovered gradually rather than all at once. A client named James transformed his dating life by learning this principle. Instead of telling women everything about himself immediately, he began sharing different aspects of his personality over time. One woman he dated told him 6 months in, "I love that I'm still learning new things about you." This ongoing discovery kept her mentally engaged and attracted. Research on brain chemistry shows that novelty and uncertainty trigger dopamine release, the neurochemical involved in attraction. When our brains encounter something unpredictable, dopamine pathways activate, creating feelings of pleasure and interest. This explains why early relationships feel exciting. Everything is new. The challenge is maintaining some of this novelty even as the relationship develops stability. I coached a couple who had been together for 5 years and felt their relationship had become too predictable. We worked on introducing elements of positive unpredictability, surprising each other with new experiences and maintaining some healthy independence. The wife later reported that these changes had rekindled the spark they thought was lost. They weren't becoming different people, they were creating space for continuous discovery. Men who reveal themselves gradually and occasionally surprise women maintain this neurochemical engagement. This approach creates intrigue without manipulation. It's about having enough substance and complexity that there's always something new to discover. Men who are continuously growing and evolving naturally maintain this quality without effort. A practical example is communication pacing. A client who typically responded to texts within seconds found that when he began responding at his own pace, sometimes quickly, sometimes hours later, depending on what he was doing, women became more engaged in their conversations. The unpredictability created interest and respected his own boundaries. Another aspect of maintaining healthy mystery is having areas of your life that remain primarily your own. This might be a hobby, a friendship group, or a personal practice. A client with a morning meditation practice found this created a sense of depth in his relationship. His partner knew about it, but recognized it as his personal space, creating a sense that there were still aspects of him to discover. Women have a hidden weakness for men. They can't completely figure out. The mystery keeps their minds engaged and attraction alive. This isn't about withholding important information, but having enough authentic depth that you remain somewhat mysterious even as you become known. By allowing yourself to be revealed gradually rather than all at once, you create space for her imagination and curiosity. Start by examining your communication patterns. Are you sharing everything immediately? Are you always available and predictable? Small adjustments in these areas can significantly change how women remain attracted to you over time. The goal isn't manipulation, but allowing the natural complexity of who you are to unfold as an ongoing journey of discovery. The self-control magnetism. What's the single quality that makes some men irresistible to women, even when they lack conventional advantages? I discovered this through years of observation and coaching. One of my clients, Ryan, wasn't particularly handsome or wealthy, yet women consistently found him attractive. Meanwhile, another client, James, had looks, money, and status, but struggled to maintain relationships beyond a few weeks. The difference between them wasn't obvious at first, but after spending time with both men, the answer became clear. Society often suggests that physical appearance, wealth, or status are the primary factors in male attractiveness. We see this message everywhere. Magazine covers feature men with perfect bodies and expensive watches. Movies show wealthy characters effortlessly attracting beautiful women. Social media highlights lavish lifestyles as the path to romantic success. These external factors seem to be the formula for attraction, creating a belief that you need these advantages to succeed with women. I worked with a client who transformed his dating life by developing self-control. He maintained discipline with drinking on dates, kept his health commitments despite convenient alternatives, and regulated his emotions during disagreements. These changes dramatically increased his attractiveness to women. Another client who previously chased any woman showing interest became more selective about his dating choices. As he pursued fewer women with clearer standards, more quality women became interested in him, demonstrating how selectivity signals self-mastery. That hidden factor is self-control, a man's ability to control his desires rather than being controlled by them. This quality creates a magnetism that operates on a deep psychological level. When a man demonstrates he's not at the mercy of his impulses, it signals something rare and valuable about his character. It shows he can delay gratification, make difficult choices, and remain stable even when tempted. Yet, this creates a paradox. Some men with every external advantage struggle romantically, while others without conventional benefits build deep connections with quality women. After coaching hundreds of men, I've observed this contradiction consistently, suggesting something more fundamental operates beneath the surface, a quality that transcends physical appearance, financial status, or social position. This principle manifests in multiple ways: controlling impulsive behaviors, maintaining discipline, and being selective with women. Men who chase indiscriminately signal low value, while those who choose carefully communicate high standards and self-discipline. A man who pursues every available woman shows his desires control him rather than the reverse. In contrast, a man who is selective demonstrates that he values himself enough to have standards. This selectivity isn't about being judgmental, it's about knowing your values and choosing connections that align with them. Self-control extends beyond dating to all areas of life. From work ethic to health habits to emotional regulation, a man who maintains work discipline even when unmotivated demonstrates dependability. A man who regulates his emotions during stress proves he won't crumble under pressure. These qualities create a pattern that signals rare personal mastery. One client initially messaged dozens of women daily on dating apps, accepting dates with anyone who responded. We established clear standards and developed his selectivity. As he became more discriminating, women responded more positively to his approaches. The energy he projected changed through his self-discipline, not through external modification. A client who struggled with emotional regulation would send impulsive texts when upset. As he developed self-control, he learned to feel emotions without immediately acting on them. Women noticed and responded to his newfound emotional stability. The transformation wasn't just external. He described feeling like someone who finally has the wheel to my own life after mastering his impulses. This pattern is consistent across cultures. Women are drawn to men who demonstrate mastery over themselves before trying to influence others. From ancient philosophical traditions to modern psychological research, self-mastery has consistently been associated with leadership ability and relational success. Whether my clients were from Western, Asian, Middle Eastern, or Latin American backgrounds, developing self-control improved their results with women. The specifics might vary culturally, but the underlying principle remained consistent. Women have a profound response to men with self-control because it signals rare discipline and reliability that creates deep security. This attraction operates on a psychological level, creating trust that this man isn't controlled by momentary impulses. A woman I interviewed explained, when a man clearly controls himself, his emotions, his habits, his reactions, it makes me feel he'll be equally disciplined about keeping his commitments to me. That creates a security that's hard to find. Start by identifying areas where impulses currently control you. Emotional reactions, food choices, digital distractions, or pursuit of women. Begin with small, consistent efforts to exercise control in these areas. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you strengthen this quality. Over time, these changes transform not just how women perceive you, but how you experience your own life. By developing mastery over your impulses and desires, you become the uncommon man who attracts through character rather than circumstances. While physical appearance naturally changes with age and financial situations fluctuate, self-control is a quality you can develop throughout life. It becomes part of who you are rather than what you have. Throughout this video, we've explored the hidden weaknesses that shape attraction and connection. What we've discovered isn't about manipulation or tricks. It's about understanding deeper psychological needs that women have for security, mystery, and strength. When you develop emotional certainty, maintain healthy scarcity, and cultivate self-control, you transform your entire approach to life's challenges. These qualities make you effective in every area of life. The man who masters himself becomes irreplaceable to women through genuine inner strength. Like a lighthouse guiding ships to safety, you become that steady beacon others gravitate toward naturally. Take one small step today toward becoming this harbor of strength.